PR Connections Radio presents the Love of Business Podcast. The Love of Business, nurturing the entrepreneurial spirit.
Awesome. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Love of Business podcast. I'm your co-host, Davin Sundvick. Joined with me today is Edgar Rodriguez, our other host, and our guest, Ron Stoker. So how we like to kind of start things off is by just kind of going around. Guests first, just kind of briefly introducing ourselves for about 30 seconds to a minute. And then after that, we'll get into some questions with Edgar Rodriguez. So, Ron, do you want to lead us off and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Ron Stoker. I'm the owner of Turnkey Property Solutions in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're a property management company. We've been around since 2011. And I'm happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us, Ron. My name's Edgar Rodriguez, as Davin mentioned, the other co-host of the Love of Business podcast, and I am a certified coach with Action Coach, where we help business owners scale and grow their businesses. Davin.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I'm Davin Sundvick. I'm your other host as well. So mainly what I focus on is real estate sales, real estate coaching, especially for real estate agents. So both on the client side of things and on the career side of things in the real estate industry. So with that being said, Ron, thank you for joining us today. We do really appreciate it because you can never get your time back. So Edgar, what's our first question that we got for Ron here?
Yeah, for Ron, again, thank you for joining us today. We are excited to dive a little deeper into your business, but can you share, what led you to start Turnkey Solutions?
So Turnkey Solutions started, I was a full-time paramedic on the ambulance since 2007 is when I started the paramedicine. And I was working shifts 4 a.m. till 4 p.m., working, 6 days a week. And a really good friend of mine, my business partner over here at Turnkey Property Solutions, Nate Vadrin, came to me and said, hey, listen, if you could work this hard on the ambulance and get paid, those paramedics get paid almost nothing, the private ambulance people. If you could work this hard as a paramedic, let's take that work ethic and put it into real estate. And that's how we started. We started with 0 doors, and we're currently fluctuating anywhere between 1,500 doors to 800 doors, depending on the economy and people selling or buying or, what they want to do with their investments. So that's how Turnkey Property Solutions started. And once it gained momentum, it hasn't stopped. It's been a really, really fulfilling career, really fulfilling business to where, you're just constantly solving different problems between, maintenance issues and being on a job, getting your hands dirty, all the way to, going to court to process evictions and legal paperwork. So it fills a whole spectrum of, from blue collar to white collar, kind of the business aspect of it. And, I don't do as many sales as Davin does, but that happens too in property management. So a lot of negotiating, a lot of dealing with people, a lot of love for the public, and being able to provide an essential service. Housing's kind of number one priority. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, you said some really, really good things in there, right? And for people to really understand is like, look, number one, you were passionate about the industry that you were in before, but you understood your value, knowing that, hey, having a conversation with a friend, hey, we can make and do something different. And because we are passionate towards this, we can embark on this new journey and look what it's led you to today, right? And it's serving the public, like you said, right? We all need a roof over our heads to sleep under. And being able to be that go-to company where people know, hey, I'm entrusting you with my real estate, knowing that you will be able to manage and take care of it. So that way things are being met. And like you mentioned too, right, is that there's a lot of nuances that go in with it. So how does your passion for your business, Ron, affect your day-to-day life?
I mean, it kind of consumes my day-to-day life, right? Like the business is number one. I mean, I have a large family of 5 children, and this business does leave a lot of room for family time. But at the end of the night, like 9 o'clock at night, calls come in. You know, you're answering those calls, and making sure things are taken care of. Make sure your owner's investments are taken care of. I mean, the average house nowadays is, what would you say, Davin, around 220,000? Like,
I mean, that's probably for like the rental quality home, but I'd say like your median is getting close to 400,000, even
40,000.
350 at the least. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're managing assets from the price range. I mean, we have some in Spanish Trails that are in the millions, and then we have some in East Side Las Vegas that are, like, God, there's not a house under 200,000 right now, even a duplex. So I mean, like when you're managing assets of that value, the owners have a certain sort of expectation of how you're going to manage like a $1 million to a $200,000 asset, and placing the right person in that asset is going to either equal a return or equal a loss on that asset. Or, placing the wrong person or placing someone that's irresponsible, like they could light your house on fire. And we've luckily only had that happen 3 times since 2011, but I mean, it's just law of averages with that. So yeah, I guess the passion comes from the responsibility of understanding the intrinsic wealth of property, or the intrinsic value of property, and making sure that property is maintained for the landlord. And then also you have to, on the other side, you have to make sure that the tenant's protected from the landlord too, and making good decisions and making sure they have a habitable house that, has a good standard of living, So there's quite a balancing act between both parties that you have liabilities and responsibilities to. But thank goodness, like I have a good business partner, and like you said, like he has a passion for it too. And if you have 2 good people in the business, man, it makes the workload so much better. And if you miss something, they're doing that. So.
Yeah. And I really liked what you had touched on, because I think a lot of people really don't understand what the professional has to deal with in real estate. Now, sales and property management, there's a lot of parallels with it. There's a lot of things that, the owners of the property expect, and either the buyers or the tenants of the property also expect. And you have to manage both, even though you may represent one client over another. If your client's not negotiating well or doing their part in the transaction, it makes our jobs very, very difficult. So yeah, definitely something that I feel like the viewers can definitely take away from someone on the property management side instead of the sales side, is that like you have to do that over and over and over again at a much higher volume, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and the other thing you were saying too, Ron, is looking at it from both lenses, right? You have who you're managing the property for, plus you're also looking at it from the tenant's perspective, right? You have to protect some tenants from some owners. So being able to be that medium in the middle to say, hey, look, we've got this, we're taking care of it. We understand it's your investment, but at the end of the day, they're entrusting you to be able to manage that property. Can you describe, Ron, challenging moments in the business or in your journey, right? And how your passion has helped overcome those challenges?
I mean, there's just a lot of emotions in just dealing with people in general, right? And there's a lot of different forms of, a lot of different levels of communication. We have the multimillionaires that we're communicating with, and then we have people of lower income that we're communicating with, and the way they communicate is highly different, and it gets very emotional. So there's a lot of calming people down and helping them see the perspective of like, hey, like at the end of the day, we'll get this done, but the emotions aren't helping. No, we have all sorts of interesting stories. Like one of my most interesting to deal with is when was it? During the recession, we had a high turnover of houses, and we had a large investment company that we managed for. And with this high turnover of houses, there's a lot of homelessness and a lot of opportunities for squatters. And so something that I currently have to deal with, and I dealt with in the ambulance a lot, is communicating with the homeless and things of that nature and negotiating with them. If you get the law enforcement involved, usually it's a much lengthier process. And a lot of people think, oh, we've heard it. You just walk in their house and you physically threaten them, the mafia-esque style. I'm going to break your knees, and that is not helpful. That does not work because these people are way more violent than you will ever be. So usually the negotiation works is like my favorite way to do it is I walk in and say, hey, listen, I saw you last week. And usually they're on some type of illicit substance. And so I say, I saw you last week. Let's just go ahead and have you get out of here. And we don't have to call the cops. And you can just leave and I'll lock the doors and we'll all be good. And I said, I'll give you an hour and I'll bring you back McDonald's. And they usually leave for a bag of McDonald's. I don't have to get the cops involved. And so, that's an interesting aspect of my job. Or walking in and you can kind of feel that someone's hiding in the house, And so when you walk into the house, you just, you make yourself known and then you say, I'm going to come back in an hour, please be gone. And they are, And so it's a lot of not getting emotionally involved. And I know realtors that have concealed carry permits. I have one and they'll draw guns on people. And it's not helpful or necessary, and people are just human beings. They're just looking for a place to live. You can't live here, but we don't need to make a bad situation worse. So, what was the question? You might have another story. I don't know.
No, you're good. You're good. That was and that is interesting, right? Because that could be very challenging for someone in your industry and not knowing how to maneuver those conversations. And you're right. A lot of these people that are in these homes or looking for a place, they are on some type of substance, right? And knowing that, hey, look, I've been in the business long enough. I've dealt with this on a day-to-day basis and not letting my emotions get the best of me to be able to have a good outcome and not get Metro involved, right? Or Henderson. What advice, Ron, would you give others who want to turn their passion into a business?
Just make sure you're all in. Right? Business isn't easy. It's not easy to grow it. It's not easy to do it. Everybody thinks it's a get-rich-quick thing. And it's going to be a lot of late nights and a lot of frustrating moments, with the business. And if you're willing to stick it out, it'll work out, One of my favorite quotes is, I think it's by Von J. Featherstone, that which you persist in doing becomes easier. Not that the task becomes easier, but your ability to do so increases, right? And that is with business, you may fail, but you always have to look at what you're learning from that failure. So, and failure is good. Failure is just failure. If you fail, you get another try at it. If you give up, you don't get another try at it. And business is going to be a lot of failure. Man, I fell on a daily basis, and just you reevaluate and you come back at the problem until the problem disappears. A problem only persists to be a problem if you don't fix it. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people they underestimate growth. Like they underestimate like how much you can grow or how much your decisions really impact the result, right? Like they feel like, oh, I can't fix this problem. It's like, well, you can't. Maybe control the problem. And that's what you're trying to do sometimes, right? Just like with the homeless people, right? People want to go in there, they want to try to control the situation with the baseball bat and be like, look, I'm going to try to break your knees if you don't leave, but it doesn't work, right? So I think like that ownership of the outcome without necessarily being in control of the situation is something that people have to master in business, right? You got to be able to grow and say, okay, how do I solve this with tools and resources that actually work instead of what I perceive to be in what I control, so definitely important there.
Also, what is right isn't always what's going to solve the problem. What's right is they shouldn't be in the house, right? That's the right solution. You shouldn't be there. It's my house, it's my property, I shouldn't have to go buy you McDonald's to leave. But it doesn't solve the problem. At the end of the day, you're wasting more of your time.
Yep.
What is it better to be right, or is it better to have more efficient use of your time?
Efficiencies, right? And something you hit too is those challenges. So knowing that, hey, look, business, it's not sunshine and rainbows like most people make it seem, right, on the surface level. There's a lot of internal things that you battle mindset wise, right? Like it's a difficult journey. It doesn't have to be. And something you said is you are going to fail. You're going to fail multiple times, but it's having that grit to stay in it and not quit, right? And you're giving yourself an opportunity. Okay, what went wrong? Let me evaluate, and how do we fix it? And what's the solution? And it's a lot of trial and error, a lot of test and measure, and a lot of fine tuning to figure out, hey, we figured out what works. You created a system, you created a process to know, hey, when we walk in, if there's somebody in the house, we give them an hour to get out, and we'll offer them a bag of McDonald's. If that, right, and that's a system that you created, that you've like, hey, this is going to be a quick short-term solution to get them out, but at the end of the day, it's saving me my energy, and it gets them out of the house. Because yes, number one, they shouldn't be in the house, right? That's living in a perfect world, but yet we live with very challenging conditions out there, and you never know what the situation is gonna arise. And I'm sure you've got multiple stories on ways to deal with it. But that leads to my next question with that one was, how does your feedback from the community, right, or your clients, how does that fuel your passion to improve the business?
I mean, there's rewards in doing a good job, right? You get positive feedback, and there's a reward in helping people solve problems that seem easy to you that are hard for them, right? I mean, we all want a pat on the back and attaboy, so that's the reward for a job well done. And you have to sometimes, like, if you don't get positive feedback from the community, just realize that they don't understand how good they have it. Like, you've seen the worst. You've seen other property managers, like in the recession, we picked up several clients where the property manager had absconded with like 6 months rent, and so you just have to realize that, like, some people don't know how to give positive feedback, and you have to pat yourself on the back. So
Yeah, something you just have to know, that you did what was best in that situation, and that they're better off for it, and that, they probably couldn't find that elsewhere. Like, there's times that you definitely have to, and sometimes those are the most loyal clients too. The clients that don't necessarily tell you you're doing a good job, because it's not like they're really attracting a lot of extra work or a lot of extra vendors from their attitude. So, I mean, yeah, you got to kind of look at it from both points of view sometimes. So.
Yeah. 100% is just knowing that, hey, some of that feedback will be positive. Yeah, we all do want to be told that we're doing a good job, but sometimes it's not knowing and not getting the feedback that we want that allows us to do better, right? Some of that feedback that's like, hey, here's what I expected, yet you are able to still deliver in managing, because it's not an asset that's not worth anything, right? Those assets are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, upwards of $1 million. Mm-hmm. So different clients are going to have different expectations, but you've learned to navigate, whether it's a super high end property, if it's in the medium, it's knowing that it's that passion of, hey, we're going to do better, we're going to get it right. It's just a lot of learning the nuances and also understanding your clients, right? Are there any unexpected ways, Ron, in which your business has been influenced by the community?
Yeah, influenced by the community or local government, man. During the COVID pandemic, like, they were just changing laws left and right on us. Like, we couldn't. They changed laws to make it. They basically handcuffed us so people didn't have to pay rent. And like, if you don't, I don't know if you know things about people, but if you don't have to do something, like, a majority of people won't. Like, if you can not pay rent, you won't. And it did happen. And, we tried to maintain that asset for that owner and, move people out or get people government assistance. And, man, the local government just made it really hard. They kept on, like, there's rules to the games with evictions and payments, and the local government kept on changing those rules. And so it was a very interesting time. We could put it that way. A lot of late nights spent on with legal departments and lawyers to try to figure out how we can protect our owners' assets, and I think we were more successful than some other property management companies because we have in-house attorneys, but at the same time, you can't manage a property correctly if you don't know what the rules are for rent payment. And like that's what happened to us during COVID. It was absolutely bonkers. We've now caught up on that, and we know a way that we're able to influence the community is if during COVID you didn't keep your commitments, we reported you to the credit bureau. And so that way, if Edgar or Davin gets a property and they go to rent out, they'll see that Turnkey Property Solutions has them in collections, and you don't have to rent to that person because you know if another COVID situation were to happen, this person is not going to pay. But the community, well, the local government made it really hard. As far as Turnkey interacting with the community or my business interacting with the community, I mean, we're quite involved in like outdoors, the wildlife conservation side of it, and that's been a real blessing to Turnkey, because I mean, chasing dollars all the time, it won't make your business successful. Like, you have to have that outreach in the community and do something that does not directly benefit your business, but is giving back, because it will come back to you tenfold. If you don't do that and you're just chasing those dollars, you might make a lot of money, but you're not going to be happy.
Yeah, it's finding that passion, outside of the business. Hey, what's out there that I can get involved in? How do I give back? And you're right, Ron. It's being able to give back to the community, helping your community in other ways that will attract the right people, and that's how business starts to really, really take off. So it's learning to give first, right, and donating some of that time, and then things come back tenfold.
Absolutely. And something to add on to that, and this is actually how we started our conversation, is, I mean, a lot of business owners get into business. Why? Because they can make more money per hour. And it's like, okay, if you can't then get control of your hours to be able to do what you want to do, what is having all that money really do in life, right? So yeah, I would definitely agree that, like, being involved in a nonprofit that actually brings you happiness to see the mission be achieved, not only does it bring you self-happiness, but people see your happiness, they're more attracted to you, they want to do more business with you, and the money comes back in. Like, you're still going to have the money and you'll still have your time. But if you just focus on the money, you won't necessarily have both. You'll just have the money, maybe not spend the time exactly how you want to spend it.
Yeah, I guess my question is what's the point of having a business if you don't use that business to do good, right? Like, your business may do good intrinsically, but if your goal of your business is to do good, I think your business will succeed.
Yeah, 100%. Final question, because I think that this one will take a little bit, and we're coming up on time. But what advice, Ron, would you give 20-year-old Ron who's just getting into business?
What advice would I give 20-year-old Ron that was just getting into business? I don't know. I think I did okay. I guess just set better boundaries. Like, I have a bleeding heart. So, like, set better boundaries, make sure I use better time management. I don't know. I think I did okay. I don't know. I'd probably just let him figure it out. He's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that can be said in that statement, because, like how you said, like, you can always, tell your past self to set better boundaries, but some people just genuinely, like, don't know why. Like, there's some people, and I applaud them for it, like, they're raised with boundaries and they've never broken them, and they don't know why, they just don't do it. I'm like, good for you. I'm like, I was one of the people that had to learn the hard way. Like, the easy way was not in my vocabulary, right? So I had to learn those boundaries over time, just from consequences, right? So, and so it's one of those things, like, could I go back in time and tell myself, hey, set these boundaries in your life? Wouldn't work, probably,
Yeah,
Edgar.
And you also hit on having a big heart, right? And knowing that those boundaries will evolve over time. I'm glad you've identified. Look, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it the same way. because sometimes it's those journeys that we're on that lead us to where we're at, right? It's how I feel about the Marine Corps, right? Is by me coming to Vegas, this was supposed to be a 2-week vacation. It's been almost 18 years, and one of the best decisions I made, right? But look what it's evolved to, right? And that's something that, for me, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it the same way. I wouldn't change anything, because the journey that we're on is learning that you're embracing the ride, right? You guys are making an impact in the community. The business is growing. You're managing a lot of properties, right? And you guys have scaled to that visibility stage. Is there any question, Davin, you wanna ask Ron before we wrap up today?
No, we're all good. What I was gonna, so when we wrap up, Ron, typically I ask 2 things, right? If there was a question you feel like we could have asked but didn't ask, or a topic that you wanted to cover real quick, go ahead, cover that topic real quick, or maybe give some message to the audience, or even just something that you got out of this podcast today. So that's my first ask. The second thing is if people want to do business with you, what's the best way to get in contact? So we'll start off with Ron, do Edgar, and then I'll close us out. And if we spend about a minute per person, we'll close out exactly on time.
Yeah, one motto I've lived in my business is do what is right, let the consequence follow. And so when it comes to making decisions, I always ask myself, is this decision right? And I identify if the consequence is even negative against me, I will make sure I make the decision what is right. And then if you want to get in contact with me, my phone number is everywhere. Turnkey Property Solutions is everywhere. So you could call my office. We have a full-time staff. We're 9 to 5. Come down and visit me. Let's go out to lunch. We could take a homeless person out to McDonald's. Just you let me know. Like I'm available if you want. The best way, if you want a big chunk of my time, the best way to get it is to come out and join a conservation project with me with Wildlife and Habitat Improvement Nevada. I will talk to you all day if you're working beside me. So,
way to do it, Edgar.
Yeah, I'll say some of the biggest takeaways, Ron, that I got in today's conversation in listening to your passion for business is the fail fast, right? Fail fast, and those failures are not necessarily failures, or opportunity for growth, right? It's learning to improve in how to get better in business. Something else you just said now is that I picked up, because I've learned this in business as well, is if you want to get to know the right people, by spending and donating your time, you never know who you're going to meet, because they're giving their time back to community, right? So by being able to do that, you never know who you're going to connect with. You never know who you're going to meet, but it's because it's coming from the heart, right? That passion to go out and do something in our community is what's led to those meaningful conversations.
Absolutely. Good stuff. And Edgar, how can people get in touch with you?
For me, easiest way to get a hold of me is just find me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the easiest way to get a hold of me.
There you go. Rock on. All right, I'll close this off. So, Ron, something that I got out of our conversation today, and it's something I've seen you do in Win, but it's interesting to hear how you apply it to business too. Is one, you're very efficient when it comes to finding a really, really good solution for a situation that may not be right, but how do you correct that incorrect situation in the most efficient way? And I see how you lead Win and the growth that happens there. And it's no wonder how you come up with some really unique ways, especially like in your business, like with that problem of how do you get a homeless person out of a house that they want to be in that they really don't belong in. I mean, I thought that was genius. And then how people can get a hold of me. So I'm pretty easy to get a hold of as well. You can look up Sundvick Realty on Google, Facebook, Instagram, pretty much every social media. Or you can go to davinsundvick.com and book a consultation directly there. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Ron, for being our guest. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.